Hello, and welcome back to English in Fluency. I am your host, Alex, and I am so incredibly happy to have you here with me today for another deep dive into the world of English learning. Today, we are going to tackle one of the biggest and most frustrating challenges that every single language learner faces at some point in their journey. It is that moment when you feel confident and you feel ready to speak, but then suddenly the person in front of you starts speaking so fast that it sounds like one long continuous noise instead of words. You panic, and your mind goes blank, and you lose your confidence. If this has ever happened to you, I want you to know that you are not alone, because this is a completely normal part of the process. Today we are going to practice B1 level listening, but we are going to focus specifically on understanding different speaking speeds so you can stay calm and confident no matter how fast someone talks to you. Before we jump into our story and our practice, make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you never miss a lesson that could change your fluency forever. Let us begin by taking a deep breath and relaxing your shoulders, because tension is the enemy of listening. When you are tense, your ears close up, but when you are relaxed, your brain can process sounds much better. To help us understand this topic deeply, we are going to follow the story of a young man named Liam. Liam is a bright and ambitious graphic designer who has been studying English for about 3 years. He knows his grammar, and he knows his vocabulary lists, and he can read news articles quite well. Recently, Liam got the opportunity of a lifetime, which was a 3-month internship in a busy English-speaking city. He was excited, but he was also terrified because he knew that real-life English is very different from the English he learned in his textbooks. The story begins on Liam's very first morning in the city. The sun was shining through the window of his small apartment, and he felt a mix of excitement and nervousness in his stomach. He got dressed and decided that his first mission of the day was to go to a local coffee shop to get breakfast. He had rehearsed the order in his head a dozen times. He told himself that he would say, "I would like a medium latte and a blueberry muffin, please." It sounded perfect in his mind. He walked down the busy street, and the sounds of the city were loud with cars honking and people chatting and music playing from shop windows. He arrived at the coffee shop, and it was crowded. There was a long line of people waiting, and everyone seemed to be in a rush. Liam stood in line, and he watched the people in front of him. He tried to listen to what they were ordering, but they spoke so quickly that he could only catch a few words here and there. He started to feel his heart beating faster. He thought to himself that they are speaking too fast, and he wondered if he would understand the barista when it was his turn. The fear of making a mistake started to grow in his mind. This is a classic reaction that we call listening anxiety. When you focus more on your fear than on the words, you actually stop hearing the language, and you only hear the noise. Finally, it was Liam's turn. He stepped up to the counter, and the young woman behind the register looked at him. She was smiling, but she looked very busy. She looked at him and said something that sounded like one long word. She said, "What can get started for ya?" Liam froze. He blinked and looked at her. He had expected her to say, "What can I get started for you today?" But she had blended all the sounds together into a fast stream of sound. He paused for a second, and then he just said his rehearsed line. He said, "I would like a medium latte and a blueberry muffin, please." The barista nodded, and then she asked another question immediately. She said, "Want room for cream?" Again, Liam felt that panic rising in his chest. He did not understand the question because of the speed and the way she connected the words room and for. He just nodded because he was too embarrassed to ask her to repeat herself. She tapped the screen, and then she mumbled something about his name for the cup. He managed to say Liam, and she scribbled it down. He paid and moved to the waiting area feeling defeated. He felt like his English level had suddenly dropped to 0. He stood there waiting for his coffee, and he felt like a failure. But my friends, I want to tell you what I would tell Liam if I were standing there next to him. Liam did not fail. He simply encountered a very specific type of fast English that we call connected speech. In reality, the barista did not use difficult words. She used very simple words, but she glued them together to be more efficient. This is the secret to understanding fast English. Native speakers do not speak fast to confuse you. They speak fast because they are comfortable, and they want to communicate the message quickly. They sacrifice the clarity of individual words for the flow of the whole sentence. When the barista said, "What Kangat started for ya," she was reducing the function words. She made the word can very short, and she attached it to get. She dropped the sound at the end of for, and attached it to you, which became yay. If you try to listen for every single separate word, you will never catch up. You have to learn to listen for the rhythm and the stressed words. Liam got his coffee, and he walked out of the shop. He found a quiet bench in a park nearby, and sat down. He took a sip of his latte and tried to calm down. He watched the people walking by. He saw a mother talking to her little child. He noticed that when she spoke to the child, she spoke slowly and clearly. She separated her words. She said, "Look at the big dog." Liam understood every word perfectly. Then he saw 2 teenagers walking past the bench, laughing and talking. They were speaking incredibly fast, using slang, and cutting off the ends of their words. Liam realized that English is not just one speed. It is a spectrum of speeds, depending on who is talking and what the situation is. He realized that in the coffee shop, the situation was high pressure and high speed. The barista was doing a job, and she probably says those same phrases hundreds of times a day, so her mouth moves on autopilot. It is muscle memory for her. Liam realized that he needed to stop expecting everyone to speak like his English teacher back home. His teacher always spoke slowly and enunciated every syllable clearly. That was helpful for learning the basics, but it did not prepare him for the coffee shop reality. He decided that he needed a new strategy. He needed to stop trying to catch every word and start trying to catch the main idea. Let us practice this concept together right now. I want you to imagine you are Liam sitting on that bench. I am going to say a sentence to you in 3 different ways. I want you to listen to how the sounds change. First, I will say it slowly, like a teacher. Listen carefully. I am going to the store to buy some bread. That was easy, right? You heard every word distinct and clear. Now, let us speed it up to a normal conversational pace. I am going to the store to buy some bread. It is a bit faster, and the words flow together a little more. Now listen to the fast version, the way a busy person might say it. I'm gonna the store to buy some bread. Did you hear the difference? In the fast version, I am going becomes im. Going to becomes gonna. The words to and by almost disappear. If you are waiting to hear the word to clearly, you will miss the whole sentence. This is what happened to Liam. He was listening for specific sounds that simply do not exist in fast casual English. The key to staying confident is to accept that you will not hear everything. You do not need to hear every preposition or article to understand the meaning. If you hear store and buy and bread, you know exactly what is happening. You can fill in the gaps with your logic. Liam finished his coffee and decided to go for a walk to explore the neighborhood. He wanted to shake off the bad feeling from the morning. He walked past a small bookstore. He loved books, so he decided to go inside. The shop was quiet, and it smelled like old paper and tea. There was an older man sitting behind the counter reading a newspaper. His name was Mr. Henderson. When Liam walked in, Mr. Henderson looked up over his glasses and smiled warmly. He spoke in a deep, slow voice. He said, "Good morning, young man. How are you doing today?" Liam felt a wave of relief wash over him. He understood every single word. Mr. Henderson's speaking speed was slow and deliberate. He paused between phrases. Liam smiled back and said, "I am doing well, thank you. I am new to the city." Mr. Henderson nodded slowly and said, "Well, welcome to the neighborhood. It is a big city, but there are many quiet places if you know where to look." Liam felt his confidence returning. He realized that not everyone in this city would speak like the barista. He started a conversation with Mr. Henderson. They talked about books, and about the weather, and about where Liam was from. Liam was able to speak fluently because he was not panicked. He had time to process what Mr. Henderson was saying, and he had time to think about his own answers. This interaction taught Liam an important lesson. His English knowledge was actually quite good. When he had time to think, he could communicate perfectly. The problem was not his vocabulary or his grammar. The problem was his processing speed. He realized that listening to fast English is like a muscle that needs to be exercised. Just because you cannot lift a heavy weight today does not mean you are weak. It just means you need to train that specific muscle. Mr. Henderson told Liam that he used to be a teacher, and he gave him some advice. He told Liam that when people speak fast, they usually emphasize the most important words. He told him to imagine the sentence is like a mountain range. The important words are the peaks of the mountains, and the grammar words are the valleys. You only need to see the peaks to know where the mountain range goes. Liam thanked Mr. Henderson and left the bookstore feeling much happier. He walked down the street with a little more bounce in his step. He decided that he wanted to test this theory of the mountain peaks. He went to a bus stop to wait for the bus that would take him to the city center. While he was waiting, a woman stood next to him. She was talking on her phone. She seemed to be arguing with someone or maybe just complaining about her day. She was speaking very fast, and she looked frustrated. Liam decided to eavesdrop, not to be rude, but to practice his listening. He tried to ignore the little words and just catch the big words. He heard her say, "Late meeting, boss, angry dinner." Even though he missed about 50% of the words, he understood the story. She was late for a meeting, and her boss was angry, and now she was worried about dinner. He smiled to himself. He had understood the message without understanding every word. This was a huge breakthrough for him. He realized that he had been a perfectionist. He thought that if he missed a word, he was failing. But in reality, communication is about connection, not perfection. The bus arrived and Liam got on. The driver was a cheerful man who said a quick greeting as Liam scanned his card. The driver said, "Step right back, mate." Liam did not panic this time. He just smiled and moved to the back of the bus. He knew the driver meant please move to the back. He did not need to analyze the grammar of the sentence "step right back, mate." He just needed to understand the context and the gesture. He sat down by the window and watched the city pass by. He realized that staying confident with fast English is mostly a mental game. It is about staying calm when you feel confused. It is about trusting your brain to figure it out, even if the data is incomplete. As the bus moved through the traffic, Liam thought about the different speeds he had encountered just in one morning. The super-fast barista, the slow and kind Mr. Henderson, the fast woman on the phone, the rhythmic bus driver. He realized that fluency is the ability to adapt to all these different speeds. It is like dancing. Sometimes the music is slow, and you move slowly. Sometimes the music is fast, and you have to move quickly. You cannot dance the same way to every song. Liam decided that he would stop being hard on himself. He accepted that he was a learner, and that it was okay to ask people to slow down. He remembered a phrase his teacher had taught him, but he was always too afraid to use. The phrase was, "Could you please speak a little slower?" He had always felt that using that phrase was an admission of defeat. He thought it made him look stupid. But now he realized that it was actually a tool for communication. If he had asked the barista to slow down, she probably would have smiled and repeated herself. She wanted to sell him the coffee. She did not want to confuse him. People are generally helpful if you let them know what you need. Liam promised himself that the next time he didn't understand, he would speak up. He would not just nod and pretend. Pretending is the enemy of learning. When you pretend to understand, you deny yourself the chance to learn the real meaning. You stay safe, but you stay stagnant. To grow, you have to be willing to be a little bit uncomfortable. You have to be willing to say, "Sorry, I did not catch that." The bus stopped at a busy square in the center of the city. Liam got off and was immediately surrounded by the rush of the lunch-hour crowd. Business people in suits were walking fast, talking into headsets. Tourists were shouting to each other over the noise of the traffic. Street vendors were yelling out the prices of their food. It was a symphony of fast English. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, Liam decided to treat it like a game. He walked through the crowd and tried to catch snippets of conversation. He tried to guess what people were talking about just by catching the stressed words. He heard a man say, "Report," "Friday," "Impossible." He knew that man was stressed about a deadline. He heard a girl say, "Movie," "Tonight," "Popcorn." He knew she was making plans with friends. He realized that English has a rhythm, like a heartbeat. Da, 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 da. If you can feel the heartbeat, you can understand the language. The fast speed is just a faster heartbeat. It is still the same body and the same language. Liam felt hungry again, so he decided to try his luck at a food truck. He saw a truck selling tacos, and there was a short line. He listened to the guy serving the food. He was a very energetic man who spoke incredibly fast, joking with the customers. He would say, "What can I get you all the usual?" Liam listened closely. He watched the man's mouth. He watched his hands. He realized that visual clues are also very important for understanding fast speech. When the man pointed to the sauce bottles, he asked spicy or mild, but he said it so fast it sounded like spicy mild. Liam prepared himself. When it was his turn, Liam smiled and said hello. The man said, "Hey, buddy, what you having?" Liam took a breath. He did not rush. He spoke at his own confident pace. He said, "I will have 2 beef tacos, please." The man said, "Sure thing, everything on 'em?" Liam knew this meant, "Do you want everything on them?" meaning all the vegetables and sauces. Liam paused. He didn't want everything. He didn't like onions. This was the moment of truth. He could just say yes and eat the onions, or he could be brave. He looked at the man and said, "Sorry, could you say that again, a bit slower?" The man stopped moving for a second. He looked at Liam, and his expression softened. He realized Liam was a learner. He smiled and said clearly, "Do you want all the salads and sauces on the tacos?" Liam smiled back. The fear vanished. He said, "No onions, please." The man said, "You got it, boss. No onions coming up." Liam paid and took his food. He felt a huge sense of victory. It was a small interaction. It was just tacos. But for Liam, it was a mountain that he had climbed. He had stopped the fast flow of English. He had controlled the conversation. He had advocated for himself. The morning of his first day at the internship, Liam woke up before his alarm. The sky was still gray, and the city was just starting to wake up. He felt a knot of anxiety in his stomach that was tight and heavy. It is one thing to order a coffee, but it is a completely different thing to sit in a meeting and discuss complex design concepts with native speakers who have been working together for years. He dressed in his best shirt and drank a glass of water, trying to calm his racing heart. He reminded himself of the lesson from yesterday, which was rhythm and focus. He told himself that he would focus on the main words, and he would not panic if he missed the small details. He walked out into the cool morning air and headed towards the subway station. The subway is a classroom for listening if you are brave enough to open your ears. As Liam stood on the platform waiting for the train, he heard announcements echoing over the speakers. These are notoriously difficult to understand because the audio quality is poor, and the speakers often mumble. The voice said something like, "Train approaching, stand clear of doors." It was a blur of sound. But Liam watched the people around him. When the announcement started, everyone took a small step back. Liam copied them. He realized that in a fast-paced environment, you have to use your eyes as much as your ears. Watching body language is a huge part of understanding spoken English, especially when it is fast. If someone says something fast and then laughs, you know it was a joke. If they say something fast and point at a document, you know they are talking about that specific paper. He arrived at the office building, which was a tall glass tower that reflected the morning sun. He took the elevator up to the 20th floor and stepped into the lobby. It was quiet and modern. The receptionist was on the phone. Liam waited respectfully. When she finished, she looked up and smiled. She spoke with a very clear and professional tone, but she spoke fast. She said, "Good morning. Can I help you find someone?" Liam was ready. He smiled and said, "I am Liam. I am here for the graphic design internship." She typed something quickly and said, "Welcome, Liam. Have a seat over there, and Sarah will be with you shortly." Liam sat down and exhaled. He had passed the first test. A few minutes later, a woman walked into the lobby. She was walking fast, and she looked very energetic. This was Sarah, his new boss. She walked straight up to him and extended her hand. "Hi, Liam, so glad you made it come on back, and we will get you settled in." She spoke at a speed that Liam would call rapid fire. She did not pause between sentences. She connected everything. "Come on back" sounded like "come on back." Liam stood up and followed her. As they walked through the hallways, she gave him a tour. This was the first major challenge. Walking and listening is harder than sitting and listening, because your brain is processing the visual environment and the movement and the language all at the same time. Sarah pointed to a room and said, "That's the conference room. We have stand-up meetings there every Monday at 9 sharp, so don't be late." Liam caught "conference room" and "Monday 9." He nodded. She pointed to a kitchen area and said, "Feel free to grab coffee whenever you want. Just make sure you clean up your mug after." Liam caught "coffee" and "clean." He was doing it. He was surfing the waves of her speech. He was not trying to catch every drop of water, he was just trying to stay on the board. This is a technique called gist listening. You are listening for the gist, or the main idea. In a tour like this, you do not need to know the exact grammar she used. You just need to know where the coffee is and where the meeting is. They arrived at his desk. It was in an open-plan office, which means there were no walls between desks. There were about 20 other people working there. The noise level was quite high. There was a hum of conversation phones ringing and keyboards clacking. This is what we call the noise floor. Listening in a quiet room is level 1. Listening in a noisy room is level 5. Your brain has to filter out the background noise and focus only on the voice of the person speaking to you. This takes a lot of mental energy. Sarah introduced him to his neighbor, a young man named Ben. Ben turned around in his chair and smiled. "Hey, man, nice to meet you. I'm Ben." Ben spoke differently from Sarah. Sarah spoke fast professional English. Ben spoke fast casual English. He used a lot of filler words. He said, "So like basically, if you need anything, just like shout, I'm usually just here editing." The words "like" and "basically" and "just" were filler. They did not add meaning to the sentence. They were just pauses to let his brain catch up. For a learner like Liam, these filler words can be very confusing. You might try to translate "like" and wonder if he is talking about enjoying something. But in this context, "like" is just a sound. Liam realized he needed to tune out these filler words. He needed to treat them like the background noise. Liam sat down and turned on his computer. He felt a bit overwhelmed by the noise and the speed of everything. He put on his headphones for a moment, just to create a little quiet space for himself. He took a deep breath. He knew that the real test was coming in an hour. Sarah had invited him to a team brainstorming session. This would be a room full of people throwing ideas around quickly. He needed to be ready. He decided to prepare by doing a little bit of warm-up. He opened a news website and found a short video. He played it at normal speed and tried to shadow the speaker. Shadowing is a powerful technique where you repeat what the speaker says immediately after they say it, like an echo. You do not wait for the sentence to finish. You speak almost at the same time. This forces your mouth to move at the speed of a native speaker. It helps you feel the rhythm of the language. Liam did this for 5 minutes, mumbling quietly to himself. It helped him wake up his English muscles. He felt his tongue loosening up. He felt his ears tuning in. He was ready for the meeting. The meeting began at 10 o'clock. There were 6 people in the room sitting around a large table. Sarah stood at the front with a marker and a whiteboard. She started the meeting with high energy. "Okay, guys, let's dive right in. We have a tight deadline on the beverage campaign, so I want to hear your wildest ideas. Go. The word go signaled the start of a chaotic conversation. People started speaking over each other. One person would start a sentence, and another person would finish it. This is very common in creative meetings. It is called overlapping speech. In a textbook, people take turns. Person A speaks, then person B speaks. In real life, person A starts speaking, and person B interrupts, and person C laughs. Liam felt his panic returning. He looked from one person to another, trying to follow the imaginary ball of conversation. It was moving too fast. He felt invisible. He felt like a child sitting at the adult's table. He missed a joke, and everyone laughed except him. He felt his face getting hot. This is a dangerous moment for a learner. It is the moment where you want to retreat. You want to become small and silent. But Liam remembered his promise to himself. He would not be passive. He would be active. He decided to use body language to stay in the conversation. Even though he wasn't speaking, he started nodding when people made good points. He made eye contact with the speaker. He smiled when they smiled. By doing this, he signaled to the room that he was present and engaged. This actually helps your listening. When you engage physically, your brain becomes more alert. Suddenly, Sarah turned to him. "Liam, fresh eyes, what do you think about the color palette?" The room went silent. All eyes were on him. He had heard the question. He had caught, "What do you think?" and "color." He took a second. He didn't rush. He looked at the sketches on the whiteboard. He said, "I think the blue is very calm, but maybe we need something brighter for summer." Sarah smiled. "Exactly my thoughts," she said. "Good point." Liam breathed out. He had survived. He realized that he didn't need to understand every word of the previous 10 minutes to contribute to the current moment. Conversations are fluid. You can jump in and out. If you miss 5 minutes, you can still catch the next minute. You do not have to carry the weight of the whole conversation on your shoulders. You just need to catch the current wave. During the meeting, Liam noticed something very specific about how the team spoke. They used a lot of chunks. They didn't speak word by word. They spoke in blocks of meaning. For example, one colleague said, "We need to make sure that the client is happy with the first draft." He paused slightly between the chunks. "We need to make sure" was one sound unit. "That the client is happy" was another unit. Liam realized that if he listened for these chunks, it was much easier than listening for individual words. Instead of processing 12 separate words, he only had to process 3 chunks of meaning. This is the secret to processing speed. Your brain has a limit on how many individual items it can hold at once. If you try to hold 20 words, you will drop them. But if you group them into 4 chunks of 5 words, you can hold them easily. Liam started listening for the pauses. He started listening for the melody that indicated the end of a chunk. It was like listening to music. You listen for the phrase, not the individual note. After the meeting, it was time for lunch. Ben asked Liam if he wanted to grab a sandwich with the team. Liam said yes. This was another challenge. Social English is often harder than business English. In a meeting, there is a topic. You know you are talking about design. In a lunch break, the topic can change instantly. They might talk about movies, then food, then politics, then their cats all in 2 minutes. The vocabulary is unpredictable. They went to a busy deli nearby. The noise was loud. They sat down with their sandwiches, and the conversation started. They were talking about a popular TV show. Liam had never seen it. He felt lost. They were using slang words he didn't know. They were laughing at inside jokes. Liam felt lonely. He was sitting with them, but he felt miles away. He started to zone out. His brain was tired. He stared at his sandwich and stopped listening. This is a defense mechanism. When the cognitive load is too high, your brain shuts down to protect itself. But then Ben turned to him. "Hey, Liam, what kind of shows do you watch?" Ben had noticed Liam was quiet. He was bringing him back in. Liam looked up. "I like documentaries mostly," he said. The topic shifted. Now they were talking about documentaries. Liam knew this topic. He had vocabulary for this. He started speaking more. He realized that in a group conversation it is okay to be quiet when you don't know the topic. You can just listen and observe. But when the topic shifts to something you know, you should seize the opportunity to speak. The speed of the conversation at lunch was incredibly fast because everyone was relaxed. They were slurring their words. "What are you going to do?" became "what ya gonna do?" "I don't know" became "dunno." These are called reductions. Native speakers reduce sounds to save energy. It is not lazy, it is efficient. Liam tried to mimic this. Instead of saying, "I am going to get a napkin," he tried to say, "Imma get a napkin." It felt strange in his mouth, but the team understood him perfectly. In fact, they seemed to accept him more because he sounded more natural. Adopting the melody and the reductions of the group is a way of bonding. It shows you are part of the tribe. After lunch, they went back to the office. The afternoon brought a new and terrifying challenge. The phone rang on Liam's desk. He stared at it. It was a black plastic monster. Answering the phone is the ultimate listening test. You have no facial expressions to help you. You have no gestures. You have no lip reading. The sound quality is often tinny and cut off. The phone rang again. Liam knew he had to answer it. He picked up the receiver and said, "Design Department, Liam speaking." A voice on the other end spoke very fast and sounded urgent. "Hi, this is Mark from printing. I need to check the specs on the flyer. Is Sarah around?" It was a blur. Mark from printing sounded like one word. Liam's heart hammered. He grabbed a pen. He needed to take control. He couldn't just say, "What?" He needed to be specific. He said, "Hi, Mark. Could you repeat the project name, please?" By asking a specific question, he forced Mark to slow down and focus on that one piece of information. Mark said, "The flyer, the summer sale flyer." Liam wrote it down. "Okay," Liam said. "Sarah is in a meeting. Can I take a message?" Mark gave a detailed message about margins and bleed lines. It was technical vocabulary. Liam wrote down what he could. Then he used a very important technique called verification. He read the message back to Mark. "So you need us to check the margins on the summer flyer, is that correct?" Mark said, "Yes, exactly. Thanks, Liam." Liam hung up the phone and let out a long breath. He had done it. He had managed a phone call with a fast talker. He realized that the key was not to let the other person speed past him. He had to build a dam in the river of speech to stop the water so he could inspect it. Asking, "Could you repeat that?" or "Let me read that back to you," are the stones you use to build that dam. You have the power to slow the conversation down. You are not a victim of the speed. As the afternoon wore on, Liam started to feel a deep fatigue. His head was throbbing. This is what we call listening fatigue. It is a physical sensation. Your brain burns a lot of glucose when it is processing a second language. It is like running a marathon for your mind. Liam felt like he couldn't hear anymore. English started to sound like random noise again. He looked at the clock. It was 4 o'clock. He still had an hour to go. He realized he needed to pace himself. He couldn't listen at 100% intensity for 8 hours a day. He decided to switch tasks. He put on some instrumental music and focused on some visual design work that didn't require language. He gave his ears a break. This is an important strategy for immersion. You cannot be on all the time. You need micro breaks. You need moments of silence or moments of your native language or just music to let your brain reset. After 30 minutes of quiet work, he felt his energy return. He was able to chat with Ben again before he left for the day. When 5 o'clock came, Liam packed his bag. He felt a different kind of tired than he usually felt. It was a good tired. It was the tired of growth. He said goodbye to Sarah and Ben. "See you tomorrow," Sarah said. "Great job today, Liam." Those words meant the world to him. He hadn't been perfect. He had missed jokes. He had zoned out at lunch. He had been terrified of the phone. But he had survived, and he had done a great job. This is the concept of the fluency illusion. You don't need to be perfect to appear fluent. If you can manage the conversation, ask for clarification when needed, and stay calm, people will perceive you as a competent speaker. They don't see the panic inside your head. They only see the calm person asking a clarifying question. Liam walked out of the building and into the evening rush hour. The sun was setting, and the city was bathed in golden light. He decided to walk part of the way home to clear his head. He observed the city with new eyes. He saw tourists struggling to understand directions, and he felt empathy for them. He saw business people shouting into phones, and he felt a little bit of pride that he had handled his own phone call. He was becoming part of the fabric of this English-speaking world. He stopped at a crosswalk and stood next to a couple arguing. They were speaking incredibly fast and emotional English. "I told you to bring the keys. Why do you always forget?" "I didn't forget, I thought you had them." It was rapid fire. Liam listened. He didn't try to analyze the grammar. He just listened to the emotion. He realized that speed is often a mirror of emotion. Anger is fast. Excitement is fast. Sadness is slow. Confusion is slow. If you can identify the emotion, you can predict the speed. He decided to stop at a supermarket to buy ingredients for dinner. He wanted to cook something comforting. The supermarket is another listening lab. The announcements, the chatter of shoppers, the beep of the registers. He walked through the aisles. He heard a woman asking a worker, "Excuse me, where can I find the lentils?" The worker said, "Aisle 4, bottom shelf." It was a functional exchange. Liam repeated it in his head. Aisle 4, bottom shelf. He was constantly practicing, constantly shadowing, even in his mind. He reached the checkout. The cashier was a young teenager who looked bored. He mumbled, "Paper or plastic?" Liam barely heard it, but he knew the context. He knew the script. He said, "Paper, please." Then the cashier said something that confused Liam completely. He said, "Wanna don it? $1 to carity?" It was a string of sounds. Liam paused. He looked at the pin pad screen. It said, "Donate to kids' charity?" He realized the cashier was asking for a donation. "No, thank you," Liam said. He relied on the visual aid to help his ears. Always look for clues. The environment is full of clues. As Liam walked the final blocks to his apartment, he reflected on the difference between the morning and the evening. In the morning, he was afraid of the speed. Now he accepted it. He accepted that he would not understand everything, and that was okay. He had permission to be a learner. He had permission to say, "Pardon?" He had permission to take up space and time in the conversation. He realized that listening practice is not just about sitting with a textbook and an audio file. It is about living. It is about the uncomfortable moments. It is about the mistakes. Every time he failed to understand today, he learned something. He learned a new reduction. He learned a new filler word. He learned a new cultural habit. The failures were actually data points for his brain. He unlocked his apartment door and stepped inside. He was safe. He was home. But he knew that he couldn't stop now. He needed to consolidate what he had learned. He took out his notebook and wrote down the new phrases he had heard. Reach out. Touch base. Run it by me. These were business idioms Sarah had used. He hadn't understood them fully in the moment, but he had written them down phonetically to check later. Now he looked them up. Touch base means to make contact. Run it by me means to show me your idea. He said the phrases out loud. I will touch base with you tomorrow. I will run the design by you. He was taking the fast blurred English he heard and turning it into his own active vocabulary. This is the cycle of fluency. Listen, notice, clarify, practice, use. But Liam faces the final boss of language learning. It is Friday night. The work week is over. His colleagues have invited him to a happy hour at a popular bar downtown. This is the environment that makes even advanced learners tremble. It is loud. It is chaotic. And the English spoken here is faster, looser, and more slang-heavy than anywhere else. Liam stood outside the bar, and he could hear the music thumping through the closed doors. He took a deep breath. He felt that familiar grip of anxiety in his chest. In the office, there was structure. There were agendas and specific topics. Here, there would be no agenda. People would jump from talking about politics to talking about cats in a split second. He checked his phone one last time, almost tempted to send a message saying he was sick. But he remembered the feeling of victory he had after the phone call yesterday. He wanted that feeling again. He pushed the door open and walked into the wall of sound. The first thing that hit him was the noise. It is what we call the noise floor. In a classroom, the noise floor is low. In a bar, it is incredibly high. Glasses clinking music, playing laughter, erupting from different corners. Liam saw his group of colleagues standing near the back. They were holding drinks and laughing. He walked over to them. Sarah waved him over. "Liam, you made it! What are you drinking?" she shouted over the music. Liam leaned in. "Just a beer, thanks," he shouted back. This was the first lesson of the night. Volume. In a loud environment, people distort their vowels because they are shouting. They project their voices differently. You have to listen to a distorted version of the language. He got his drink and stood in the circle. Standing in a circle is socially difficult because the conversation bounces around like a ping-pong ball. Ben was telling a story about his landlord. He was speaking incredibly fast and using his hands wildly. So I go to him, and I'm like, "Dude, you gotta fix the heater." And he's like, "Nah, it's fine," and I'm like, "Bail on this place." Liam caught the words heater and fix. He didn't know the word bail, but he watched the faces of the others. They were nodding sympathetically. He guessed that bail meant to leave. He nodded too. He was using context clues to fill in the blank spots in his vocabulary. Suddenly, The group burst into laughter. Liam hadn't heard the punchline. He stood there with a frozen smile on his face. This is the loneliest feeling in the world for a language learner. Everyone is sharing a moment of joy, and you are on the outside. You feel like a ghost. Liam felt the urge to retreat into his shell. He pulled out his phone and pretended to check a message just to have something to do. But then he stopped himself. He remembered his goal. He put the phone away. He looked at Ben and waited for a pause in the laughter. "So, did you move out?" Liam asked. The group looked at him. Ben smiled. "Yeah, man. I crashed at my brother's place for a week." Liam had successfully re-entered the conversation. He realized that even if you miss the joke, you can still participate in the aftermath of the joke. You don't have to understand everything to be part of the group. You just need to find a thread you can pull. Crashed was another slang word. Liam guessed it meant slept. He was constantly decoding, constantly solving puzzles in real time. As the night went on, the alcohol loosened everyone's tongues. The speech became even more connected and reduced. "Did you eat yet?" became "Jeet yet?" "I am going to" became "Imma." This is extreme connected speech. It happens when people are comfortable and not self-monitoring. Liam decided to stop trying to translate in his head. Translating is too slow. By the time you translate the first sentence, the speaker is already on the third sentence. Instead, he tried to just let the wash of sound hit him and pick out the emotional keywords. He found himself standing next to a colleague named Emily, whom he hadn't spoken to much. She was quieter than the others. She looked at him and shouted, "It is so loud in here, right?" Liam smiled and nodded. "Yeah, crazy loud," he said. They started a one-on-one conversation. This was easier than the group dynamic. In a one-on-one conversation, you can control the pace more. Emily asked him, "So, how are you finding the city so far?" It was a standard question, but she spoke it quickly. "How are you finding the city so far?" Liam answered honestly. "It is big and fast, but I like it. People are friendly." Emily nodded. "Yeah, it takes some getting used to. When I first moved here, I felt overwhelmed too." Liam felt a connection. She was sharing a vulnerability. He decided to take a risk. He decided to ask about a slang word he had heard earlier. "Emily," he said. "Ben said he would bail. What does that mean exactly?" Emily smiled. "Oh, it means to leave or to quit. Like if a party is boring, you bail." Liam smiled. "Ah, okay. I thought so. Thanks." By asking, he turned a moment of confusion into a learning moment. And interestingly, Emily didn't look down on him. She looked happy to help. People actually like explaining their language. It makes them feel like experts. This is a key strategy for social listening. Use the native informant. Find one person in the group who seems patient and use them as your guide. Ask them, "What does that mean?" Or, "Who are they talking about?" Most of the time, they will be your ally. They will whisper the context to you. It transforms the experience from a test into a team game. You have a teammate now. Later in the night, the music changed to a popular old song. Everyone in the bar started singing along. "Don't Stop Believin'." Liam didn't know the lyrics, but he hummed along with the melody. He realized that fluency isn't just about words, it's about cultural fluency. It's about knowing the songs, the references, the jokes. This takes time. You cannot learn this in a textbook. You have to live it. He made a mental note to look up the song later. He was building his cultural database one night at a time. A man bumped into Liam and spilled a little bit of beer on his sleeve. "Oh, my bad, dude," the man said quickly. "My bad." Liam knew, "I am sorry." He didn't know, "My bad." But the body language was clear. The man looked apologetic. Liam said, "No worries." He surprised himself. "No worries" was a phrase he had heard Ben use. He had absorbed it and reproduced it without thinking. This is the magic of immersion. When you listen enough, your brain starts to store these phrases in your subconscious. They pop out when you need them. You don't have to construct the grammar. You just retrieve the chunk. Liam looked around the room. He saw people arguing, flirting, negotiating, and storytelling. It was a sea of English. He realized that he would never understand 100% of it. Even native speakers miss things in a loud bar. He saw Sarah shout, "What?" to Ben 3 times. If Sarah, a native speaker, couldn't hear, why was Liam beating himself up for not hearing? He realized that the standard of perfection he had set for himself was unfair. The goal was connection, not perfection. He decided to tell a story. This was the ultimate test, to hold the floor in a loud group. He waited for a lull in the conversation. "You know," he started, raising his voice slightly to project. "In my country we have bars, but we usually sit down. Standing up is new for me." The group looked at him. They were listening. "Really?" Sarah asked. "You sit down all the time?" Liam nodded. "Yes, it is more relaxing. Here it is like exercise." The group laughed. He had made a joke. A simple joke, but it landed. The laughter felt good. It wasn't laughter at him. It was laughter with him. He felt a surge of dopamine. He had manipulated the language to create a social effect. That is fluency. As the night wound down, the group decided to get pizza. They walked out of the loud bar into the cool night air. The sudden silence was a relief. Liam's ears were ringing. This is physical evidence of the workout his ears had done. They walked to a pizza place, and the conversation was quieter and slower now. They were tired. "I am starving," Ben said. "I could eat a horse." Liam knew this was an idiom. He didn't visualize Ben eating a horse. He understood the meaning. Very hungry. He was starting to process idioms automatically. They ate pizza and talked about their weekend plans. Liam found it much easier to understand them now. Maybe it was because he was relaxed. Maybe it was because the noise was gone. Or maybe it was because he felt accepted. Anxiety creates a filter that blocks language. When you feel safe, the filter drops, and the language flows in. The social bond he had built that night was actually helping his listening skills. When you like people, you listen better. They said their goodbyes at the subway station. "See you Monday, Liam," they chorused. Liam waved. "See you Monday." He walked down the stairs to the train platform. He was exhausted. His brain felt like mush. But he was happy. He had survived the happy hour. He hadn't hidden in the corner. He had engaged. He had asked questions. He had made a joke. On the train ride home, he reflected on the last 3 days. He thought about the progress he had made. It wasn't that his English had improved magically in 72 hours. It was that his relationship with the language had changed. He used to see fast English as an enemy attacking him. Now he saw it as a puzzle he could solve. He stopped panicking when he heard a blur of sound. He learned to wait, to listen for the peaks of the mountains, to use his eyes, to ask for help. He realized that listening is an active sport. It requires energy, focus, and strategy. It is not something that just happens to you. You have to go out and get it. You have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations like the bar. You have to risk looking foolish, because on the other side of that risk is connection. He arrived at his apartment and fell onto his bed. He didn't even have the energy to undress. He stared at the ceiling and smiled. He was a B1 learner in a C2 world, and he was doing just fine. He knew there would be more challenges. There would be days when he would feel stupid again. There would be accents he couldn't decipher. There would be phone calls that went wrong. But he knew he had the tools to handle them. He had the resilience. Now I want to speak directly to you, the person listening to this story. You are Liam. We are all Liam. Every single person who has ever learned a second language has stood in that coffee shop terrified. Everyone has sat in that meeting feeling invisible. Everyone has stood in that bar feeling lonely. It is the universal path of the language learner. But I want you to know that the confusion you feel when you hear fast English is not a sign of your lack of intelligence. It is just a sign of your stage in the process. Your brain is rewiring itself. It is building new neural pathways to process these sounds. Every time you listen and struggle, your brain is growing. So how can you practice this at home? You don't have a bar or an office full of native speakers, but you have the internet. Here is a specific technique for you. It is called the background noise challenge. Put on a podcast or a YouTube video in English. Now turn on a radio or some music in your room. Make it loud enough that it disturbs the audio a little bit. Now try to listen to the podcast. Force your brain to separate the voice from the noise. This trains the cocktail party effect muscle. It is hard, but it works. Another technique is micro-listening. Take a 5-second clip of a movie where the actor speaks very fast. Listen to it 20 times. Write down what you think you hear. Then check the subtitles. Compare your version with the real version. Analyze the difference. Did you miss a the? Did you miss a have? Why? Was it reduced? Was it linked? This analytical work is like looking under the hood of a car. Once you understand how the engine works, you are not afraid of it anymore. And finally, the most important technique is self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. You are doing something incredibly difficult. You are decoding a complex code in real time. Give yourself credit for every word you do understand. Don't focus on the black hole of what you missed. Focus on the islands of what you caught. Liam's story is a story of confidence. Confidence is not knowing everything. Confidence is knowing that you can handle not knowing everything. It is the belief that you can figure it out. It is the courage to say, "Sorry, I missed that." As we close this series, I want you to make a promise to yourself. Promise that you will not run away from fast English. Promise that when you hear a fast talker, you will not panic. You will take a breath. You will listen for the stress. You will watch the face. And you will trust your brain. You are capable of understanding different speeds. You are capable of staying confident. You are capable of fluency. It is not a magical gift for a chosen few. It is a result of practice, patience, and persistence. Thank you so much for joining me and Liam on this journey. I hope this story has given you not just techniques, but also the courage to go out there and use your English. Whether you are ordering a coffee or sitting in a boardroom or laughing in a bar, you belong there. Your voice matters. This is Alex from English in Fluency signing off. Keep listening, keep speaking, And most importantly, keep believing in yourself. The world is waiting to hear what you have to say. See you in the next lesson.